said he killed people and he rolled up someone in carpet or bedding or whatever it was. He also needed to get out of town. He needed a plane ticket and a bus ticket or anything he could. He was wearing sweatpants only, no shoes, no shirt. He was bloody and he was missing a couple of teeth.
A Florida court imposed a shocking and enthralling judgment in a sensational case that evoked public feelings and sharply divided the legal opinion. On August 27th, Wade Wilson was condemned to death in the heinous murders of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz back in October 2019. Well, all that is history now, as Wilson turns out to be the first killer in Florida to be condemned to death under the highly debated new law by Governor Ron DeSantis. The emotional burst from the victims' families made the atmosphere in the courtroom highly charged.
My mother only had love in her heart, only wanted the best for me, and nothing that happened to her was ever deserved, and she just wanted to live a normal life.
Christine Melton was my best friend and my cousin until October 7th, 2019. It is my task to describe this beautiful human and to somehow capture Christine in a way that 12 strangers and 2 alternates.
This whole case not only shows the personal tragedy of the families involved, but also points out the contentious changes in the death penalty laws of Florida. A law signed by Governor DeSantis in April 2023 reduced the threshold for recommending a death sentence from a unanimous jury decision to an 8-4 vote. Critics argue that such a shift in the sentencing standards has transformed capital trials into the quintessential game of chance, further eroding issues of fairness and justice in the legal process. In this video, we dive deep into the case of Wade Wilson, what the new legislation does to his case, and what that means for the future of the death penalty in Florida. As you watch, we untangle some key aspects of this case and all that goes with it. Wade Wilson was born in Tallahassee, Florida, on May 20th, 1994, to Stephen Testaseca and his partner, who were both teenagers. He grew up in Tallahassee with a stormy past that was fully equipped with legal run-ins and criminal allegations. The couple knew that with their young lives, they could not raise him, and thus they put Wade up for adoption. Later, Cindy and Steve Wilson adopted him. At the trial, his early life and his adoptive family were front and center, as it were. His rap sheet in Leon County began in 2012 with numerous arrests for sexual assault, burglary, child cruelty, and firearms offenses. According to the Tallahassee Democrat, his legal woes were many and varied. Wilson's tortured and dark history is the critical backdrop against which one views the brutal actions for which he was sentenced to death. A past checkered with serious allegations and convictions shows a picture of a man whose life was dogged by criminal activity and legal controversies. 2 of his most famous incarcerations are included in Wilson's prison record. His first sentence, given from November 26, 2013 to September 19, 2014, was for burglary and grand theft. He served another prison term from October 17, 2017 to July 15, 2018 for firearms theft. In 2015, Wilson was tried and acquitted of serious charges of sexual battery and kidnapping in Tallahassee. His name surfaced again in 2018 during the investigation of the Tallahassee murder conspiracy involving Denise Williams and the death of her husband, Mike Williams. However, while the name of Brian Winchester's best friend, periodically mentioned as a key figure in the case, was well known, he was never charged. Things became even more complicated for his profile when, in February 2019, a woman called the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office to report that her ex-boyfriend, Wilson, had beaten and strangled her.
I dated this man. I don't want to be quiet about this. It was just like a very toxic relationship, but he was never violent, ever. Back in the car and put my seatbelt on, and that's when he started choking me. I should have stopped at like a gas station or something, but I think I thought no one would believe me.
Wilson.
He was like, no, that like this is hearsay. Like you don't have any probable cause.
At the time, authorities did not have probable cause to arrest him. Wade Wilson's time behind bars has not been smooth sailing. Since his arrest, Wilson was kept inside a 10x10-foot cell at the Lee County Jail. However, on September 30th, 2020, he and his cellmate, Joseph Katz, pulled off a brazen jailbreak from the facility. When jail officials conducted their regular inspection, they discovered that the metal frame around the window had been removed from the cell, and large cracks were visible in the thick security glass. Investigators soon learned a metal stool, bolted to the concrete floor, had also been ripped out. All telltale signs that Wilson and Katz had been planning their escape for some time. Wade Wilson's problems did not end with his attempted escape. On April 20th, 2023, a K-9 unit on its routine patrols outside the Lee County Jail Receiving Center picked up 2 suspicious bags. The 2 suspicious bags were found to be holding methamphetamine, loose cigarettes, suspected narcotics, lighters, and several pills. Court records show the narcotics were passed on to Wilson and another inmate through a network of trusted inmates, known colloquially as trusties. It was revealed that the trustees smuggling contraband into the jail were usually extended special privileges for good behavior. The probe showed one such trustee gave the drugs to another, who then supplied the same to Wilson. Officials also tapped into recorded inmate phone calls and discovered he was discussing narcotics with a female, later identified as Bonnie Wiggins. That sparked an undercover investigation in which police followed Wiggins and 3 other suspects outside the jail. That eventually resulted in the arrest of 6 people, including Wilson, on drug-related charges. On October 7, 2019, Wade Wilson met up with 35-year-old Christine Melton and her friend Stephanie Sailors at Buddha Live in Fort Myers. Following a night together, the group went to Jason Shepard's home, staying there several hours until leaving the next morning. Later that evening, Wilson and Sailors went to Melton's residence in Cape Coral, Florida. It was there that Wilson's activities became criminal. The evidence showed that while Melton slept, Wilson strangled her to death and then stole her car. Not yet satisfied, Wilson continued his spree shortly thereafter. He came upon 43-year-old Diane Ruiz walking down a street in Cape Coral. Approaching her, pretending to ask her for directions, he was able to coax her into his stolen car. She responded by attempting to get out of the car, whereupon Wilson brutally attacked Ruiz, beating and strangling her, then pushing her out of the car and running over her a multitude of times, estimated range from 10 to 20 times. After these brutal crimes, Wilson went ahead and called his biological father, Stephen Testaseca, several times, confessing to and detailing the gory acts of his crimes. Initially, Testaseca took those phone calls as a pansy, thinking that this was just one of the usual yarns that Wilson was fond of. Later, however, he realized the seriousness of the matter at hand, and in the presence of his wife, who was listening in on the call, he chose to call the police. He reported to the police the confessions that Wilson made and told them where he was. On October 8, 2019, police arrested Wilson after his father called the police to report that he was inside an unoccupied home that he had broken into. That ended a brutal and tragic series of events that had shaken the community. Wade Wilson was supposed to learn his fate last July 23rd, but his defense attorneys had the life-changing sentencing delayed. Their contention that 2 more medical professionals, a psychologist and a neurologist, must examine Wilson before passing a sentence, was successful. It delayed sentencing and gave the defense longer to argue on the case's merit. Wilson sat emotionless during sentencing as the judge officially declared the death penalty. Amira Fox, the state attorney for the 20th Judicial Circuit of Florida, had no such reserves in her judgment on those supporting Wilson. She said that she is appalled by the extent to which some members of the public seem to idolize him. Speaking to the greater issue, Fox said that she was tired of social media and the internet. She blamed those outlets for the growing tide of support for Wilson. She'd never, in her 34 years in the law, dealt with such a reprehensible, evil person as Wade Wilson. But never ever in my career have I seen a monstrous receive this much public support. It has not gone unnoticed that this defendant is being idolized by some people who are somehow proud to mix their name with his through public comments, fundraising for him, or holding him up to be some sort of positive representation of a man, ignoring that he is nothing more than a vicious killer and about the most poor representation of a man there could ever be, Fox said. In a letter to the court, which one of Wilson's attorneys read during Wade Wilson's sentencing hearing,
calculated, in a premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. You already found, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the murders were premeditated through your verdict. You found 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder. You must now find that that premeditation was heightened, demonstrated by a substantial period of reflection. In order to do that, I think it's important to start at the beginning of this case, where it all happened, off McGregor Boulevard, near College Parkway, at the Buddha Lounge. Music was playing, people were socializing. The defendant went there to have a good time. And he discarded the woman he came with, and he chose one that caught his eye, Christine Melton. And as he told detectives, this is what I do with women, you know. I use my charm, I use my good looks. That's what I did with the first girl, and that's how I got in her head. And look what happened to her. When the defendant first approaches Christine, he's not threatening. He's smooth, he's charming. He's nice to her and her friend Stephanie. They party together, no red flags, no sign of aggression. He's a fun guy, but he waits. He waits until he's back at her house, in her bed, and Stephanie has gone home. He waits until he is alone with her, until there are no other witnesses. He waits until she is asleep, defenseless. The defendant says she can't get away from him, even if she wanted to, because he's too strong. And when she can't get away is when he kills her, when he strangles her, because he was the lion.
His adoptive parents, Cindy and Steve Wilson, wrote, "In this letter, Wilson was described as a joyful child who loved his parents very much and had a promising future. Wade was a joyful child, loved his parents. They did, however, let it be known that all that changed after the onset of Wilson's drug addiction, which they said drove him into delusional behavior. The system failed him on that fateful day in 2019, they wrote, referring to the day of the murders. We hope this video has been informative for you. To stay updated about developments in the case of Wade Wilson, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll let you know all the latest news and cover each little detail. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.